Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling Ethereum mining in 2025.
Oh, yeah, definitely a hot topic.
It is. We've had a ton of listeners write in about passive income ideas,
Uh-huh.
and mining specifically keeps coming up.
Makes sense.
So we dug up this really interesting guide. It's meant for beginners,
So,
but even if you're already familiar with crypto, it has some great insights. We'll be breaking down how to get started with mining Ethereum,
all right,
what tools you'll need,
the essentials, yeah.
how to maximize your profits, and a little twist, we'll even be looking at whether Ethereum is still the best crypto to mine these days.
Ooh, now that's a good question.
There's this new player, BlockDAG, that's making some waves.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe ETH isn't the only game in town anymore. We'll
Okay.
see. But first things first.
Let's get the basics down.
Right. Mining. What does it actually mean?
Well, it all comes down to your why. Like, why are you even interested in mining in the first place?
Oh, that's a good point. You have to start there.
Yeah. Is it just about raking in those sweet ETH rewards?
Yeah, just the money.
Or maybe you're fascinated by the tech behind it all.
The blockchain, yeah.
Blockchain, exactly. Or maybe it's a bit of both, right?
Probably for most people, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. Figuring that out will help us make sense of this guide and what parts are most relevant for you.
Okay, so before we get too deep into it,
Right.
just a quick recap for anyone who's totally new to this.
Yeah, good idea.
When we talk about mining Ethereum,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about using your computer's processing power
Okay.
to validate transactions on the Ethereum blockchain. So
Okay.
basically, you're solving complex math problems.
Puzzles.
Yeah, puzzles. And the first one to crack the code gets rewarded with ETH. But this deep dive isn't about getting bogged down in the technical jargon.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
No, we want to make this practical. So
What we actually need.
what do we actually need, right? According to this guide,
Mm-hmm.
what are the tools of the trade?
Well, first up, you absolutely need a crypto wallet. Think of it like a digital bank account.
Gotcha.
This is where you'll store your ETH once you mine it.
Makes sense.
Now, there's a bunch of different wallets out there, but this guide highlights two popular options,
Okay.
MetaMask and Ledger Nano X.
All right, so break those down for us. What are the pros and cons?
So MetaMask, that's like your everyday wallet.
Okay.
Super easy to use, browser-based, very convenient.
Got it.
But if you're really serious about security, Ledger Nano X is the way to go.
Ah, okay.
It's like Fort Knox for your crypto.
So that's the more secure option?
Much more secure. You do sacrifice a little bit of convenience, though.
Yeah, trade-offs, right?
Always trade-offs.
So we've got our wallet situation figured out.
Check.
But what about the actual mining itself? The guide mentions hardware options, right?
Right. And this is where it can get kind of tricky.
I bet.
You could technically use your computer's CPU to mine Ethereum.
Like just my regular laptop.
Yeah, but honestly, it's not going to get you very far.
Ah, okay. Not efficient.
Not even close.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like trying to run a marathon in flip-flops.
Okay, that's a good analogy.
You could do it,
Yeah.
but you're not going to win any races.
Right, right.
If you're serious about mining Ethereum,
Mm-hmm.
you'll want to look into GPUs,
Okay.
or even better, ASICs.
ASICs. All right, so what's the difference?
These are specialized chips
Okay.
designed purely for mining, so they're way more efficient than just using your regular computer CPU.
So it's like purpose-built hardware.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've got your wallet, you've got your hardware. How do you actually connect all this to the Ethereum network and start mining?
That's where mining software comes in.
Ah, the software.
The guide mentions a few popular ones,
Mm-hmm.
NB Miner,
Okay,
Ether Miner, Ush Miner.
got it.
But which one's best for you really depends on your operating system.
Ah, so like Windows versus Mac.
Yeah, Windows, Mac, Linux, maybe even a dedicated mining server if you're getting really fancy.
Whoa, next level.
Yeah, there are pros and cons to each.
So some research is required.
Do your homework. Figure out what aligns best with your setup.
So we've got the wallet, the hardware, the software. Are we ready to start mining now?
Almost. We've got the tools, but now you need to choose your mining strategy. And this is where your why comes back into play.
Okay, so the why is important here.
Super important. The guide breaks it down into three main strategies:
3.
cloud mining, pool mining, and solo mining.
All right, so cloud mining, that sounds kind of intriguing.
Yeah, especially for beginners.
Yeah. What is that like? Renting mining power from a company that already has all the fancy hardware?
That's the gist. Low commitment.
Yeah.
You don't have to shell out for expensive rigs or worry about those electricity bills.
Yeah, electricity is a big factor.
Huge factor.
So that's cloud mining. You're basically just renting the power.
Renting the power. The downside is You share your profits with the cloud mining provider.
Okay. Trade-off.
Always
Makes
trade-offs.
sense.
All right, so then there's pool mining. I'm picturing like joining forces with other miners.
To increase your chances of hitting it big.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Right.
You're combining your computing power with others.
So you get more consistent rewards.
More consistent, but you got to split the earnings.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
It's generally considered a good balance of risk and reward.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling really ambitious,
If you want to go rogue.
solo mining,
Solo mining. All right. What's that all about?
that's the high stakes game.
Okay.
You go it alone, you keep all the profits if you find a block.
Wow.
But it's high risk. You need a big upfront investment in hardware and a high tolerance for risk.
Yeah, because you might not find anything.
Exactly. You could be spinning your wheels for a long time and end up with nothing.
It's a gamble.
Big gamble.
So 3 very different strategies, different levels of risk, different potential rewards.
Yeah.
Sounds like choosing the right one really depends on, your individual circumstances.
Your why.
There it is again, the why.
It all comes back to the why. But one thing that seems important no matter what strategy you choose is hash rate.
Okay, the guide mentions that a lot.
It's crucial.
So what is hash rate?
It's basically how fast your hardware can solve those complex mathematical problems we talked about.
So like processing power.
It's literally how many calculations per second your mining rig can handle. The higher your hash rate, the better your chances of finding a block and getting those ETH rewards.
So more power equals more rewards.
Generally speaking, yes.
Makes sense. So how do you increase your hash rate? Can you just buy a more powerful computer?
Well, yes and no. You definitely need powerful hardware, but there are also ways to optimize what you have.
Ah, okay, so tweaking and optimizing.
Yeah, exactly. The guide gets into some pretty technical stuff, but things like tweaking your hardware settings can make a big difference.
So it's not just about the raw power, it's about how you use it.
Exactly. Think of it like tuning a race car. You could have the most powerful engine in the world, but if it's not properly tuned, you're not going to win any races.
All right, I like that analogy. So what about software? Does that play a role in hash rate too?
Absolutely. Keeping your software up to date is crucial. New updates often include performance improvements that can boost your hash rate without you having to do anything.
Oh, so free performance boost.
Essentially, yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got the tools, the strategies, the need for speed. What about the results? How long does it actually take to mine some ETH? And what kind of profits are we talking about realistically?
Okay, so the guide says it can take about a month to mine 1 ETH using pool mining,
A month, okay.
assuming you have a decent hash rate.
Right, so that's an average.
It's an average. There are so
Yeah.
many factors that can impact how much you earn and how long it takes.
Like what? What are some of the things that can affect that?
The difficulty of the puzzles, the overall hash rate of the network, even the fluctuating price of ETH.
Right, so it's not as simple as just plugging in your rig and watching the ETH roll in.
Not quite that easy, unfortunately.
But I mean, compared to something like Bitcoin, this guide makes it seem like Ethereum is a good option for beginners.
That's a fair assessment.
Like Bitcoin is worth a lot more,
Oh, yeah.
but it's also a lot harder to mine, right?
Way harder. The energy consumption alone is insane,
Yeah.
and the hardware is way more expensive.
So Ethereum is a good starting point,
Yeah, more accessible.
but now we have this BlockDAG thing to consider too.
Right. The plot thickens.
Yeah, the guide made it sound super interesting,
It is. It is.
especially for someone new to mining.
Yeah, they're really pushing that user-friendliness aspect.
Okay, so break it down for us. What is BlockDAG, and why is everyone so excited about it?
Well, one of the things BlockDAG is trying to do is address some of the limitations of traditional blockchains, like Ethereum.
Like what? What are some of those limitations?
Scalability, transaction speed, things like that.
Okay, so it's trying to solve some of the problems that Ethereum has.
Exactly. And it does that by using something called a directed acyclic graph, or DAG for short.
DAG. So blockchain versus DAG, what's the difference?
Think of a blockchain like Ethereum's as a single line of blocks, each one added after the other. A DAG is more like a web, with multiple branches being added simultaneously.
So more happening at the same time.
Exactly. Which means faster transactions, greater scalability. Think multiple lanes on a highway instead of everyone being stuck in a single lane.
Okay, so it's faster and it can handle more transactions. That makes sense. But how does that affect mining specifically?
Well, with BlockDAG, miners play a more active role. They're not just validating blocks, they're actually contributing to the structure of the DAG itself. And because the DAG can handle more transactions, there's a potentially higher reward ceiling for miners.
Interesting. So a bigger, faster network with potentially more rewards. I'm starting to see why people are excited about this. But the guide also talked a lot about BlockDAG being really user-friendly, even more so than Ethereum. Is it really that much easier to get into?
That's what they claim. They've designed their mining rigs to be super straightforward to set up, like setting up a simple appliance.
Okay, so no technical expertise required.
That's the goal. And they even have that smartphone mining option we mentioned earlier.
The BlockDAG X1 app miner. I'm still a little skeptical about that. Can you really do any serious mining from your phone?
Honestly, I was too. But it's meant to be a really accessible entry point. It's not going to replace a dedicated mining rig, but it's a low-cost, low-risk way to try out mining and see what it's all about.
It's almost like they're trying to make mining available to anyone, not just people with a lot of technical know-how or a lot of money to invest.
Exactly. And by doing that, they're hoping to attract a whole new wave of miners, which would help strengthen their network and potentially drive up the value of the BDAG coin.
Okay, I'm getting it. So BlockDAG is all about accessibility and potentially high returns. But let's talk numbers for a second. How does BDAG's profitability actually compare to ETH? The guide throws around phrases like high ROI, but is there any actual data to support that?
Well, it's tough to say for sure because the crypto markets are so volatile
Yeah, things change so quickly.
all the time.
Right.
Profitability can swing wildly based on so many factors. But from what we've seen so far, and considering the growing interest in BDAG, it's definitely looking promising.
Okay, so no guarantees, but a lot of potential. But let's be realistic. Ethereum is the big player here. It has a massive community, it's been around for a while, and there are tons of real-world applications for it already. Can BlockDAG really compete with that?
That's the question, isn't it? It's like comparing a seasoned veteran to a rising star. Ethereum has the experience and the widespread adoption, but BlockDAG has this fresh, innovative approach, and that focus on accessibility could really shake things up.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? You're interested in passive income, you're exploring mining, now you've got this new option with BlockDAG. What should you do?
I think it all goes back to your why.
Ah, the why again?
It always comes back to that. Are you purely driven by profit? If so, you need to do your research. Look into both ETH and BDAG in mining, compare their hash rates, mining difficulty, and, very importantly, how their coin prices are trending.
And don't forget about the costs involved, the hardware, the electricity, and the different mining strategies we talked about earlier.
Right, it's a complex equation, but it's important to crunch those numbers before you make any decisions.
But maybe your interest in mining goes beyond just the money. Maybe you're fascinated by the tech itself, or you want to be part of building a more decentralized future.
In that case, BlockDAG might appeal to you even more. Their whole approach to blockchain is different, and they really emphasize community involvement.
So it really comes down to your personal priorities and how those align with each platform.
Exactly. This deep dive is just the starting point. There's so much more to learn and explore.
So listener, the choice is yours. Will you stick with the tried and true Ethereum or take a chance on this up-and-coming BlockDAG?
It's a tough call, but hopefully this deep dive has given you the knowledge to make an informed decision.
And remember, in the world of cryptocurrency, knowledge is power. So stay curious, keep learning, and who knows, you might even discover a whole new passive income stream we haven't even talked about yet.
The possibilities are endless.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here in part one.
We have.
But before we dive into the specifics of BlockDAG,
Right, the nitty-gritty.
yeah, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. What does this all actually mean in the grand scheme of things?
Good point. We can't lose sight of the context.
Exactly. We'll be back in just a minute to explore that and more in part two of our deep dive.
All right, so we're back, and we're ready to dig into this BlockDAG thing.
Yeah, let's unpack it, see what all the hype is about.
Exactly. So,
Well, one of the key things to understand about BlockDAG is it's trying to fix some of the problems that traditional blockchains like Ethereum have.
okay, so what kinds of problems?
Scalability, transaction speed, things like that. It can be a little slow. Right, and that's becoming a bigger issue as more people use crypto.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So instead of using that traditional blockchain structure,
Mm-hmm.
BlockDAG uses something called a directed acyclic graph,
Mm.
or DAG for short.
A DAG. Okay, so blockchain versus DAG.
Right.
How are they different when it comes to actually processing these transactions?
So picture a blockchain like Ethereum's as a single line of blocks.
Okay.
Each block gets added one after the other. A DAG is more like a web,
Okay.
with multiple branches of blocks getting added at the same time.
So more happening concurrently.
Yes. Exactly. And that means you can process way more transactions,
Mm.
much faster, greater scalability,
Well,
right?
okay. So that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
multiple lanes on a highway instead of everybody being stuck in one lane.
That's a great way to put it. So yeah, more transactions, faster speeds. That's what they're going for.
Okay, so how does this DAG structure actually affect mining?
Well, in BlockDAG, miners are way more active.
Okay.
They're not just validating blocks. They're actually contributing to the structure of the DAG itself by confirming those transactions and linking them to the network.
Interesting. So they're building the DAG as they go.
In a way, yeah. And because the DAG can handle so many transactions at once, there's a much higher potential for rewards.
Ah, okay. So more transactions means more potential rewards for the miners.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. The guide also talked about how user-friendly BlockDAG is supposed to be, especially compared to Ethereum.
Right.
Is it really that much easier?
Well, they've put a lot of effort into making it super simple. They want anybody to be able to mine.
Okay.
So their mining rigs are designed to be really straightforward.
Plug and play.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
Like setting up a home appliance.
Okay. And then there's that smartphone mining option we talked about.
Right. The BlockDAG X1 app miner.
I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around that one. Like, can you actually do any serious mining from your phone?
It's definitely not going to replace a dedicated rig,
Yeah.
but it's a good way to get started. Super low cost, low risk. You can get a feel for how mining works and maybe even earn a little BDA.
So it's like dipping your toes in the water.
Exactly. No big investment required.
Right.
They're trying to make mining accessible to everyone.
It's almost like they're trying to democratize mining, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can get more people involved, they'll just make their network even stronger
Right.
and potentially drive up the value of the BDAG coin.
Okay, so BlockDAG, it's accessible. There's potential for high returns.
So far, so good.
But how does it actually stack up against ETH when it comes to profitability?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
It's tricky because, the crypto markets are notoriously volatile.
Right.
Things change all the time. But early projections look good, and there's definitely growing interest.
Okay.
So yeah, no guarantees,
Mm-hmm.
but there's definitely potential upside.
Potential upside. I like that. But let's be realistic for a minute. Ethereum is the established player here,
Okay.
right? It's got the big community. It's been around for a while, and it already has tons of real-world applications.
Yep.
Can BlockDAG really compete with all that?
It's a David and Goliath situation, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah.
Ethereum has the experience and everyone knows it, but BlockDAG is bringing something new to the table
Yeah.
with that focus on accessibility and ease of use.
So it's kind of like a trade-off,
No.
right?
Look at that.
Established player versus the up-and-comer. So for our listener out there, you're interested in passive income, you're looking into mining,
Right.
and now we've got this BlockDAG option in the mix.
Right.
What should you be thinking about?
Again, it goes back to your why. Why are you doing this?
Okay, so if you're all about the profit,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do your research.
Absolutely. Look into both ETH and BDAG mining.
Okay.
See what their hash rates are like, how
Right.
difficult it is to mine each coin.
And keep an eye on the coin prices,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Those
Yeah.
can fluctuate like crazy. And remember to factor in the costs, too.
Mhm.
The hardware, electricity, all that good stuff.
So there's a lot to consider.
It's a lot to juggle, but it's important to do your due diligence.
But for some people, maybe it's not just about the money.
Right.
Maybe you're interested in the tech behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you want to be part of something new and exciting.
Yeah, building that decentralized future.
In that case,
Yeah,
BlockDAG might be even more appealing.
it could be, yeah. They've got a different way of doing things, and they're all about community.
Okay.
So really think about what's important to you.
What are your priorities?
Exactly. See which platform aligns best with those. And remember, this deep dive is just a starting point. This is just scratching the surface.
There's so much more to learn.
Tons of information out there.
So keep researching, keep exploring. So listener, what's it going to be? Will you stick with Ethereum or take a chance on BlockDAG?
What will you choose? It's a tough decision.
It is. It is.
But hopefully this deep dive has given you the information you need.
At least a starting point.
Right. And remember, knowledge is power, especially in the crypto world.
Stay curious out there.
Yes,
All right, so we've covered a lot in this part.
we have.
But before we wrap things up,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's worth taking a step back
Okay.
and looking at the big picture. Like all this stuff we've been talking about,
Mm-hmm.
what does it actually mean? Why does it even matter?
Right. Good point. We can easily get caught up in the details.
Yeah, we can't lose sight of the bigger picture. So we'll be back in a minute to explore that and more in part 3 of our deep dive. All right, so we've talked about all the nuts and bolts of ETH mining.
Mm-hmm.
We've looked at this new BlockDAG thing.
Yeah, the up-and-comer.
But before we finish up, I think it's important to zoom out a little.
Right.
Look at the bigger picture here.
Yeah, what does it all actually mean?
Exactly. We can get so focused on the details, we kind of forget why we're even talking about this stuff in the first place.
Easy to get lost in the weeds.
It is. So
Yeah.
I think when we talk about cryptocurrency, whether it's Ethereum, BlockDAG, whatever,
Yeah, any of them.
it's really about decentralization.
At its core.
Yeah. It's about empowering people,
Right.
giving them more control over their own finances.
Breaking free from the traditional systems.
Exactly. And mining is a big part of that.
It is. It's the backbone of it all.
It's not just about, making a quick buck.
Yeah.
It's about securing these networks,
Mm.
keeping them running smoothly.
Making sure everything's legit, preventing fraud.
Yeah, it's a pretty important job.
It is. It is.
And it comes with its own set of challenges and rewards.
For sure. We've talked about the technical stuff, the costs, the potential profits, but there's also this whole community aspect to it.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole world.
It is. People from all walks of life coming together.
Right.
Tech enthusiasts, entrepreneurs, everyday people.
It's really cool to see. So what do you think?
Yeah.
What's next for all of this? For Ethereum mining, for BlockDAG, for crypto in general?
No, man.
Crystal ball time.
If I had a crystal ball, I'd be a rich man.
Right.
It's so hard to predict. Things are changing so fast.
Tech is evolving. There are new players popping up all the time.
Yeah, regulations are changing. It was a wild ride.
It is. But I think no matter what happens, those core principles of decentralization and transparency,
Right.
those are here to stay.
Those are the driving forces, and that's what's so exciting about all of this.
Yeah, it's pushing boundaries, creating new opportunities. So as we wrap up here, I want to remind everyone this deep dive is just the beginning.
Yeah, the first step.
Keep learning, keep exploring,
Right.
and most importantly, stay curious.
Stay curious.
The world of cryptocurrency is full of possibilities.
It is.
Challenges, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But that's what makes it so interesting. So whether you decide to mine Ethereum, BlockDAG, or something else entirely,
You're becoming a part of something big.
yeah, it's more than just, making money.
Right.
It's about being part of a movement.
Mm.
And that's pretty cool.
It is. So dive in, explore, and see where it takes you.
Well said. That's all for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, everybody.